we're talking about JSON, which is JavaScript object notation. It allows us to exchange data in a format that is what we say is lightweight. It's language independent. While it's based on the JavaScript language, it does not require you to know JavaScript. You don't have to be a JavaScript developer to understand how to use JSON. We would use it because the syntax is straightforward. It's easy to build. It's easy to manipulate. Basically, just as I mentioned with HTTP protocols, it's supported by most modern programming languages, and they really all have libraries, so you aren't dealing with JSON strings. You pass in a JSON object, and it breaks it out into your what I say programming semantics, but I really mean your objects that you would typically manipulate if you were in Java or Rails or .NET, for example. It is similar to XML. It's self-describing, just like XML. It's human readable, just like XML. And it's hierarchical, just as XML is, where you can have values. And within a value, you can have an object that can further get nested with other values. In addition to JSON as a payload, in addition to using HTTP REST semantics, the other technology that's widely used are JSON schemas. And on here, I have a link to the JSON schema website that's run by the organization that comes up with the standards for JSON schemas. But basically, all I'm really trying to get across is if you understand XML schemas, you'll understand JSON schemas. The notation is different, but just like XML schemas, it allows you to annotate and validate a JSON document, just like you can do with XML and XML schemas. Just like XML schemas, it describes your data payloads. It basically describes your JSON data payloads. And it also provides documentation that humans can read and understand, but it's also machine readable too. And there's a link here on a getting started step-by-step guide that the JSON schema organization provides. And so the final piece I wanted to touch on is what Ellucian provides. Since everybody here is a Banner customer, that Ellucian provides the use of these technologies and APIs within their Ethos platform. I'm not diving deep into how to use a platform or anything like that, but we do. Ellucian does provide a nice way and within Ethos integration and the data model to build out a new integration architecture that is hub and spoke. So starting with the Ethos data model, it's domain driven. So it doesn't matter what platform or what application that you're using. It's domain driven, so it's built to basically say, what does a person look like in higher ed, not what does a person look like in Banner. Everything's described as a real life term. So you have a person, you have a course, you have a section registration. You don't need to remember all of the Banner table names. And for somebody like me who only has a bit of experience in Banner with the actual database, I don't have to remember all those crazy table names either, nor do your business people have to understand those table names, because you can talk to your business people about a person or a course or a section, and it allows your technical and business staff to speak the same language as you're working together. Again, it was modeled specifically for higher ed. Those industry standards we're talking about with JSON and REST, it uses those standards. It provides a single view of the truth. So when I talked about reusing a person service. That person service is the single view of a person within your organization. And really it was built and driven by the need to reuse integrations instead of point-to-point integrations. The Ethos data model, at the very highest level, there's domains, foundation, student, HR, advancement, etc. Within the foundation domain, you might have a resource or an entity like a person or an address, for example. And then within those resources or entities, you might have multiple objects that make up a resource. So for example, your person's resource will have names, it'll have biographical information, it'll have contact information, it might have email information, for example. But again, it's pretty easy to navigate since you can pretty easily select the domain and drill down into it to find what you're looking for. So I put this here not to talk through the whole thing, especially while I wasted everybody's time when I couldn't get internet. Just know there's two messaging patterns. One is a synchronous messaging pattern called request reply. And that's basically having your third-party system that needs to get data from the authoritative source. And in this case, Banner is the authoritative source for persons. So rather than having the third-party system connect to Banner directly, it connects to Ethos integration in the middle here. And Ethos integration routes it to the right system. And that's how we shield that third-party system from what is used on the back end. I'm not telling anybody to change SISs, but if you had to swap out Banner, for example, with something else, as long as you kept supporting that version of a person, your third-party system would never know about it, for example. And then the other one is a publish subscribe messaging pattern. And this is also a hallmark of the hub and spoke model. So in this case here, we have a third party and it wants to update people in Banner, update a person in Banner. So with step 2, Ethos directs it to Banner. Step 3, here's Banner saying, yes, that update happened. And step 4 is that third party getting an okay response back. But really the key to this is once that data is updated in Banner, Banner knows there was a change and it publishes that change to Ethos integration. And any other application that's subscribed to that change can get it almost immediately after it happens. And so the value of the published message pattern is it starts getting you more into real-time integrations. And you can start building integrations that are based on these changes versus trying to find all the changes for like a single day or for the past 3 hours, for example. And so here's another quote that I kind of love in all of this is, I'm showing you all technologies. They enable change, but the technology alone doesn't drive the change. It has to be the people that use the technology for better to enable the change that we want to get at our institutions. So quickly getting started, Ellucian has documentation. It's available on the Ellucian resources site if you've ever been there. A great contact is your customer success manager. And there is a lot of documentation out there. What Higher Digital has found has been the documentation is very useful once you get used to it and get used to Ethos, but it's often hard to onboard. And a customer oftentimes needs more information and training. And so one thing Higher Digital supports for customers, for all Ellucian customers, is we have some prepackaged services. They're relatively inexpensive, and we have services to teach you how to install and configure Ethos integration. Where we differentiate ourselves is we don't come and do it for you. We walk you through it, we record everything, and we give you context as to why you're doing what you're doing so that you have that recording and can do it yourself later on. We also have services to train staff, and we've had a huge success with our training services. We've had one institution that used our training services, and within the next 3 to 4 weeks, they had built 3 custom integrations using Ethos and pushed them to production. So we've been very successful working with training staffs at different institutions. Also, our prepackaged services that I mentioned, they're also offered via some partners that we have. So Fisher International Identity, Link is another partner, and end-to-end, they can offer these higher digital services through their company. So you can get these services, but do it all through your relationship with those vendors already. And we do have more partnerships coming soon. So to summarize, technology can become the wings that let the education world fly farther and faster than ever before. We just have to allow that technology to work for us. And that's what a lot of this integration architecture is the technology's there. Now let's make it and allow it to work for us and do what we need it to do.